r/Askreddit redditors who have done Salvia. What was your trip or trips like? Was looking through an iron bar fence at the skyline across the river. By the time I exhaled the second hit, the city has completely disappeared, and also I became a fence. Did weird fence stuff for an indeterminate amount of time, before feeling like a fence person, then a person fence, and finally just a normal person near a fence. TL. Doctor, smoked salvia, became a fence. Did you feel like you were falling away before you became a fence? Very accurate. I felt like I became a letter on a box of Cheerios, doomed to live the rest of my life as an O. It was very unpleasant. I kept rolling around. I was not meant to be a two-dimensional letter. I was on the beach in Atlantic City, New Jersey in the middle of the night and took a huge hit of salvia. My boyfriend at the time was getting nervous about doing it, so I went first. The first time we did it, nothing happened, so I wasn't scared or nervous at all. I inhaled as much as I could and held it for as long as I could. As soon as I blew the smoke out, I forgot my entire existence and the buildings turned into what I can only describe as filing cabinets. The music coming from a nearby club became my heartbeat and then disappeared. I was really comforted by some female presence that was assuring me everything was okay, but I was freaking out. I could not remember one aspect of my life, no matter how hard I tried. I couldn't even figure out what I was, like the fact that I'm a human being and my parents gave birth to me, loved me, and now I'm on a dirty beach tripping my face off. I was just stuck in a giant filing cabinet thing, like an important piece of paper that you put in the bottom drawer cause that drawer locks, all the while being assured by a disembodied woman that I'm going to be okay. The music started coming around to being music again, and I heard my boyfriend at the time calling my name. I sit up covered in sand and say to him, "Beans?" That was the music playing in the club. Then I noticed who he was, and I never saw someone more concerned before in my life. He explained, as soon as I blew out my hit, I fell backwards and started rolling in the sand while speaking gibberish and drooling. In my mind though, I was Beyonce's birth certificate. Not a sentence I thought I would read today, or ever, for that matter. Short and terrifying. I was convinced a yellow school bus had arrived to take me back to redo life from the 5th grade. The absolute best way to keep kids from doing salvia is to let them try it. Redo my life from 5th grade? Yes, I'm in. I didn't so many things wrong. I'd be happy to start over again. That life doesn't have Sava games or a quick save button. If I could pick a superpower, it would totally be the ability to quick save and quick load. Horrifying. I smoked it at a friend's house on his back deck. Myself and about 6 of my closest friends and 2 of my brothers. So I had smoked salvia once before and it didn't really work, so I wanted to make sure it worked this time. I take huge hits and all of a sudden I'm completely disconnected from reality. I'm no longer at my friend's house, I'm in a completely different 3-dimensional space. Now the terrifying part. So what my trip was that I was now a plank of wood, like the wood from the deck I was standing on. That definitely became what my trip was, finding out for the first time that I'm not human, but a plank of wood with a face, connected to all my friends who were also planks of wood. The horrifying part was how real it felt. It was that this was my existence now. I was a piece of wood. All my friends were pieces of wood. Everyone that I knew were pieces of wood. When I came to, I was drooling on myself, and I could see how much I scared all my friends. For the following 20 minutes or so I didn't speak to anyone and didn't trust them. I couldn't work out in my head what had just happened. It may not seem all that crazy reading this, but I have never felt fear the way I felt during this trip. It was pure terror. My friends say that when I started to trip, my eyes became soulless and the look on my face matched the feeling of horror I was feeling. They said it looked like I saw a ghost, but it was so much worse than that. I will never smoke that again, knowing that what happened is a possibility. I don't think I'll ever feel fear the way I felt it that day. Dude, my salvia trip was incredibly similar to this. In my trip I thought I was a thread on a carpet, with other threads also being real people. So I then thought that life was so dull as a carpet that I imagined the life we currently live in to entertain myself. The trip felt so real, like I was truly waking up from the life I made up. I lost complete touch with reality. Right after I blew out smoke, I could feel myself zooming away, and I tried to fight it, while I could feel my body turn into shifting bricks. I could hear footsteps trying hard to keep up and stay in the present. I then slipped away, and then I was lying on the ground, sandwiched in between other people. It felt like everyone in the world was lying down with me and staring into the sky, immobilized by some force. I tried to move, but I had melded with all the other people. Poof, I didn't exist. I was nothingness. Then, in another period, I turned into some indescribable creature, and I started feeling like I was coming home to something. And I was greeted by a male and female presence. They said, "Hi Winnie Kitty. We're Mr. and Mrs. R. Welcome back. We've missed you." The pages of my life flipped back and forth. The beginning, middle, and end carouseled around and around until they all meant the same thing to me. I heard songs in languages I never heard of yet felt I knew, and flashes of patterns and frightening images. Everything was so familiar. When I stopped tripping, I was so disturbed and scared. I still couldn't tell what was real. I ran outside and heard a bird chirping, and I thought it was telling me something. And for a while after that, I have been suspicious of the hidden symbols and meanings in life. Whoa. Salvia is actually some strong shit. I smoked some, and then I lost touch with reality for a minute or two. Basically, my head started to grow into a tree, and then all my friends turned into Asians and I could understand what they were saying. When I finally came down, I was so confused and didn't have pants on anymore. It's surprisingly intense, especially since it's legal, although my province is trying to ban it, I believe. It was the first high that I couldn't stand up and do stuff. The whole trip was in my head. I remember my buddy was like, "Dude, this shit's like DMT," and I always wanted to try DMT, so I said sure. I took a puff, and it felt like I was constantly falling backwards into a clone of the room I was in. I remember there was a mirror in the room, and as the room sort of settled, the mirror looked like a long platform which extended out into some grey space. I haven't tried it since. It doesn't have the euphoria that other drugs tend to give you, and that makes it much more disorienting. My mom's trip is a better story than my own. She has never been a partier or drug user whatsoever. One time I had some friends over, and we convinced her to try it. Right after she exhales, she picks up an ashtray and threatens to throw it at the horse in the room, the horse being my friend Greg. She told him to quit galloping on her new carpet, but he was sitting down. Maybe you were the one, Salvia, and your friend Greg was actually indeed a horse galloping on your mother's carpet. I had a brief period 5 or so years ago when I was doing it a few times a week. The first few times I took it were pure existential terror. My entire frame of reference was scrambled beyond recognition and reality was completely incomprehensible, and as I was coming out of it, I would be consciously having to remember basic things like who I am, what my hands are for, the effects of gravity, etc. And I would always swear I'd never do it again. Then 6 months later someone would offer me some, and by that point, the terror would have long since faded away, and I'd be curious about it again. After a few times like this, I started to kind of get the hang of it, and when I smoked, I knew more or less what was coming, as much as is humanly possible with Salvia, and was able to actually enjoy it. I started to recognize the progression and the general patterns of the trip. It affects everyone very differently, but for me, as it was kicking in, I would be enveloped in this kind of rotating kaleidoscope of possible realities, all somehow related to some aspect of my life, but in a totally abstract form. It would rotate, stop for a second on one reality, then rotate again. I had no control over the rotation, but I was able to kind of pick which one seemed the most recognizable, and that would affect the realities that would come up and help me gradually find my way back to the normal, non-Salvia reality. It was like the Salvia threw me off into some random corner of the multiverse, and now I had this weird kaleidoscope tool to help me find my way back. Also, however you're picturing this is completely inaccurate, and it is for me too, because it is abstract to the extent that you just flat out cannot even remotely begin imagine it when you're not in the middle of it. Salvia is like DMT's cousin who hangs out under the porch smoking crack. Tried it a couple of times. Contrary to popular opinion, I loved it, even though I detest acid. Funniest experience was when I just smoked a bowl and was walking down the sidewalk on a nice summer day. Thinking to myself, wow, it's like my body is on autopilot and my mind can run free, this is awesome. Like my body movements, steps, etc. were automated and moving me where I wanted to go without me explicitly moving, allowing more brain forethought. If that doesn't make sense, it's probably because I was tripping balls. Anyway, I'm strolling along until I come up on an intersection and see a truck coming from my right, and in a completely lackadaisical attitude I think to myself, well shit, that truck's gonna hit me. My legs won't stop, damn. Then while I'm mid in a monologue about walking in front of this truck, because my legs ain't tacking no mother f asterisk orders from little ol' me, I realize I'm not moving. I'm standing on the edge of the sidewalk, just standing there, staring into nothing. That truck came past and was gone, and my only thought was f asterisk thanks legs, you got my back for sure. Honestly s/o to legs. Thank you for watching video. Like, share and subscribe this channel.